Hi, everyone. Bob Bordone here, senior fellow at Harvard Law School and founder and former director of Harvard Law School's Negotiation Mediation Clinical Program. Welcome. I am joined today by esteemed neurologist and my friend and co-author, Dr. Joelle Salinas. Hi, Joelle. Nice to see you.
Hello, hello.
And we are here. We're going to talk about some insights from our upcoming book called Conflict Resilience, Negotiating Disagreement Without Giving Up or Giving In. Today, we're not going to talk so much about disagreement, but we are going to talk about a really hard conversation for some people. And the way we are going to get into it is we are going to take a look at a clip from a show called Heartstopper. This is season 3, episode 1, where Charlie is trying to do something that many of us struggle with. So let's take a look, and then I'm going to invite Joelle to offer some thoughts, reactions, and advice.
Nick, I have something to tell you. I love you. I'm in love with you, and I just wanted you to know. And you don't have to say it back yet. I mean, but I hope you do. Because I'm properly in love with you. And I want you to feel the same way too, eventually. But I don't want you to feel pressured to... Stop spying on me.
Stop declaring your love so loudly, then. I'm shocked you haven't said it already.
Well, it's not that easy, and it's probably too soon anyway. I don't want him to have to say the awkward "I love you too" because he feels obligated to.
You don't think he feels the same?
Okay, I think we can stop there because what we're going
Yeah.
to talk about today is the very scary thing of how do you say I love you, or even more broadly, how do you express kind of warm feelings of affection when you feel stuck and scared? Joelle, you're the brain
Yeah.
scientist here. What is happening, and why can so many of us affiliate with Charlie so easily?
Yeah, first off, what an adorable clip. I feel
I love
like
it.
it's like so relatable to like anybody. Just that apprehension about like whether to make yourself really vulnerable and use the big L word.
Yeah,
And
amen.
like how the other person will react.
And practicing in the mirror, right? Which is like something that I could literally imagine myself doing, and like
Yeah.
something we talk about in maybe not quite that literal way, but kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, talking about the mirror work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's probably going on in his brain as he's going through that is, and one thing that's important to know is that your brain evolved uh to be a forecasting machine, basically to be a fortune teller for you. That's how our brains evolved, to really be able to predict what is around the corner, is there danger, so that way you can act and kind of survive from it, taking all the information from before. That's what really makes humans really unique in the evolutionary landscape. And what happens when our brain is forecasting, depending on what your past experiences are and kind of how your brain is wired, you may forecast certain futures. And what he's probably forecasting is all the many futures that are kind of laying out before him. There's like one future where he says, I love you, and he gets that immediate reciprocation, and that's really great. But given that his brain, just knowing this character, tends to wire towards more the anxious side,
Mm.
so the more kind of like worried, concerned, kind of preoccupied side, he's probably thinking about the million other scenarios that are really negative, where he'll say, I don't love you that way, I can't reciprocate, that he might be shocked. And he's trying to, as he's practicing, is trying to account for all the different scenarios, but mostly focus on the negative ones. That's what hurts the most. That's the most uncomfortable one. And what we talk about in the book is this idea of like different identities that are
Mm.
in your brain that you're really doing a negotiation with, right? He's actively negotiating in a mirror with the version of himself that wants to say I love you and feels that it's going to be a really positive outcome. He's going to say I love you back. And then the many other versions of himself that are scared, the version of himself that don't want to be hurt, that don't want to be vulnerable. And it was really interesting at that last part, is I don't want him to feel, he said, I want to feel obligated.
Obligated. Obligated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's probably that voice that's like that many of us may have, so this people pleasing, right? That we don't want to disappoint and we don't want to inconvenience others. And it's kind of sad, right, to feel that you expressing yourself in a really positive way, there's this voice that sees that as an inconvenience to others, that you're like imposing on
Yeah.
somebody else.
Or also, it's interesting, like I see that. The other thing that I see that I think is common for a lot of people avoiding a difficult conversation, and I think frankly for many people saying I love you is a
Hmm.
difficult conversation or a difficult message, even though it
Yeah.
comes easily to others. But what I also see is this tendency to kind of externalize,
Mm.
right? Like my avoidance mechanism is to kind of put something on the other, like it will create an obligation
Yeah.
instead of kind of saying what does it mean for me to be able to express how I feel?
Yeah. Yeah. And it, this preoccupation that he has, where it's taking all of his attention. So we have these attention networks in our brain that's kind of like the spotlight of what's going on in the world around us. And because there's this potential future that has this negative charge, um, that has this added kind of salience to it, this
Hmm.
kind of pulling the attention, take that spotlight. And so he gets so stuck in his head in this process where he's constantly thinking about how many all the different ways he could say to try to mitigate the potential, which is kind of that brain's way of trying to escape danger or potential threats. And it's going to trip him up, right? When he tries to go and say, I love you, because he's going to maybe be half hearted or try to account for things, or basically, instead of saying, I love you, he's going to give him a legal document about
Yeah.
all the ways that he can escape.
Yeah. And in doing that, he like ends up missing the magical opportunity that the authenticity of the expression would bring, right? And I think that one of the things that we talk about in the book and that I think is kind of interesting here is both of these sides, right? The side that really wants to say I love you and the side that's scared and doesn't are real.
Mm-hmm.
And what's admirable in this moment or in this character, right, is that he's really trying to practice. But so often we say it isn't going to work, or it's going to,
Mm-hmm.
or it'll catastrophize, or they won't reciprocate, or they'll have to reciprocate, but it won't be real.
Mm-hmm.
And that side that could have that connecting or transformative push in the relationship, maybe not as extreme as I love you, but whatever it is, just never happens.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone is kind of let down. Like the side of you that wanted to say it is let down. The other person doesn't know it, but they're let down. And the only thing that kind of wins the day is that kind of fear and avoidance side.
Yeah. And the way that I would suggest that maybe he can navigate this a little bit more clearly is to really try to dampen the negative charge that he's
Mm,
feeling about the situation. So this kind of preoccupation around all the potential things that are happening, we don't want to just give him like reassurance, right? Just saying it's not a big deal, right, doesn't really help, because it is a big deal,
it is a
right?
big deal.
It
It's
can be a big
minimizing.
deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he could get the reciprocation with I love you, but it could be a negative situation. He doesn't know. Like maybe he could
Yeah.
be like, ew.
Right. You might say, where
Right?
is that coming from? Like, I just
Yeah.
thought we were dating. Like,
Yeah. But what could be really helpful is, instead of focusing on what can happen, really just helping to turn the volume down of that distress by keeping his focus less on the negative outcomes and more on the fact that he doesn't know what's going to happen.
yeah.
Right? He doesn't know what's going to happen. And he wants to be able to be kind of authentic, or kind of listen to each of those voices that are going on inside of him. So maybe he could be really authentic in expressing that I love you by saying, I'm going to tell you something that I'm really nervous about because I'm afraid about how you're going to respond, but I want to be true to myself and let you know that I love
Yeah.
you.
Yes. I love that, right? I mean, it's kind of what we call in the book bringing those two identities together and voicing them both. It's not
Right.
like one is right or wrong or one is more or less valid. They're both there, and bringing them forward in that honest way. In my mind, like if you can get there, right, it only has upsides. I mean, the
Hmm.
nice end to the story is that the person at best reciprocates it or at least appreciates it. But frankly, if you get the negative reaction, and I think this is something that's also really important, but can be hard to do in conflict, in terms of the long-term interest, in this case of Charlie, like it's probably helpful to know that now.
Hmm.
And so getting the benefit of that information doesn't mean the relationship is over, but it's helpful to know like we were kind of miscalibrated or where we are now, and what do we do with that? Or we are, you know what I mean? And but that fear of that disappointment and the consequence that it will completely end, I think
Hmm.
prevents us from yeah, voicing the both and.
Yeah.
So, well, you know what? There's a both and here that I'm feeling like I would both like to really continue and also am aware of our time. So, yeah. So, listen, everybody, keep watching Heartstopper season 3 if you haven't seen it. But more importantly, if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. Please ring the bell. Please like this video. And if you want more tips and tricks on how to bring brain science and conflict handling together to be really conflict resilience, please pre-order our book. The link is in the description. It's conflictresiliencebook.com. Go there now. We'd be so grateful for a pre-order. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Okay, it's not difficult to keep watching. Click, click.